With 2023 behind us, it's time to turn our attention to 2024 and put together our 5 predictions for the local Huntsville, Alabama real estate market. So we've got 5 predictions plus a bonus prediction, so stay tuned to the end. But before we jump into that, make sure you hit subscribe below to stay on top of all of the latest Huntsville, Alabama real estate news. With interest rates being some of the biggest headlines in terms of affecting affordability and the overall number of homes sold in 2023, let's jump into our prediction for interest rates for 2024. Of course, the Fed has recently come out with some guidance on what they are saying they're going to do in terms of interest rates in 2024, but it was obvious what the Fed was likely going to do in 2024. You can look at this Wall Street Journal article where really based on previous data on Fed increases and decreases, it looked like 2024 was going to be a year that they cut rates and that they now are signaling towards that. And so looks like that's going to happen in 2024. And then you kind of couple that with just being an election year and how, politics and the Fed work together in terms of really, unfortunately, manipulating our overall economy and real estate sales in general. And so the Fed has issued that guidance for 2024 and really beyond 2024, 2025, and 2026. It looks like rates are on the decline. We've had 3 rate cuts predicted for 2024, additional 4 in 2025, and then 3 in 2026. Obviously, there's a lot of time and economic data that'll come out between those years that could impact that, but it does look like interest rates have peaked and will be coming down over the next couple of years. In fact, even though that they held rates steady in December and they are only predicting that, or they're only signaling rates to come down in 2024, interest rates on the 30-year market has already started to come down. And the reason for that is our 30-year rates are loosely tied to 10-year treasury rates. And you typically see a spread of the 10-year treasury rate to the 30-year rate about a delta or spread of about 1.7%. The difference in this market is we've seen a spread of about 3%. And the reason for that is there's just been so much fear and uncertainty built into the marketplace. Plus, loan originators, they don't want to lose their shirts in terms of refinances. So they've already priced some of that into the 30-year market. And so as we now see that, we're probably peaked in terms of interest rates, some of that additional 1.3% spread has come out of the marketplace, which is why we have lower interest rates today, even though the Fed hasn't lowered those rates yet. And so with all of that, my prediction for 2024, I think we're going to see kind of around the middle of the year towards Q3 as we start to get that 3rd rate cut. I think we're going to see interest rates drop to probably like the mid 6s on the conventional side to the high 5s on the government side. So typically government loans like your FHA, VA loans are going to be lower than your conventional loans. I see a high 5 range for those and then about a mid 6 range for your conventional loans. So with a prediction of interest rates going lower in 2024, I think that's also going to push home sales higher, both nationally and here locally in the Huntsville, Alabama real estate market. One of the biggest drivers that we're looking at in terms of that is mortgage applications are already up 15% in December. And the reason that is so important is that is really kind of like a leading indicator of what sales are going to do. So a lot of people applied for loans in December and they're out shopping and putting homes under contract. We're already starting to see that. We saw a really busy last couple of weeks of December and already starting to see a busy January as well, as again, mortgage applications are up because interest rates are down. NAR economists are predicting 4.71 million homes sold, which is a big increase from last year, but it's still way off from our peaks of 6 million plus homes sold nationally. I personally think with interest rates potentially going to drop to that high 5s, mid 6 range versus conventional versus government loans, I think that'll push home sales nationally to about 4.5 million. And I think here locally, we're going to see about a 10 to 15% increase in terms of home sales, again, here locally. Now, kind of one wild card is it kind of all goes back to that prediction number 1 is interest rates. And so if interest rates drop even more dramatically than we're predicting, and if you see conventional rates in that 5.5 range and pushing government rates into like the 5 range, I think that could potentially put a lot of the sellers that are kind of in that mortgage rate lockdown effect. I think a lot of those would be sellers that are kind of locked in right now to their low interest rates will begin selling again. I think that'll increase our supply. And then as we get interest rates in the mid 5s, I think that would also increase the demand dramatically as well. So I would throw kind of that prediction out the window if that scenario happens. And I think we could see sales increase as much as 25% in 2024 if we see that scenario. I don't think we'll see that scenario because the Fed is trying to keep inflation low. And if we see that if we do in fact get interest rates down to that level, you would likely see higher prices, but we'll talk about that here in just a second. So for number 3, my prediction is new construction is going to have another great year. I think they're going to have an even better year than they had in 2023. New construction was a big portion of the overall number of sales, both for the Huntsville market and then nationally as well. I think the difference in 2024 versus 2023 is they don't have to offer as many interest rate buy down incentives to attract the buyers. And that's really what hurt their margins in 2023. So I think they have the sales volume that they had in 2023, but then they have a higher profit margin as they're not having to offer those huge interest rate buy downs as we already have lower rates. So I think it's going to be a banner year for new construction. You know, home builder sentiment is actually up 3 points, but it is still below, you know, what that kind of the average score is, which is 50. And so we're at a score of 37. So kind of the overall outlook for home builders nationally is 37. It's a negative outlook, but really what's causing a lot of that is some of the smaller builders. You know, they're feeling the pinch with the higher interest rates or what have been higher interest rates. And the larger national builders, they're doing just fine. They have all the lot inventory that they need, and they're offering the incentives to be able to get the sales that they need as well. So I think a lot of that national builder sentiment is due to the smaller local builders. And so I think the larger national builders are going to have a great year. And then you look at the overall lot inventory levels at the local level. A lot of these local builders have really stocked up on local lot inventory. I think they're going to have all the inventory that they need hit at just the right times to be able to hit this buyer demand that we're going to see in 2024. So again, look for a great year for new construction for builders. One other thought on new construction: if you're a home seller, if home builders are able to maintain their prices and not do significant incentives in terms of interest rate buy downs, etc., that will really impact you on the home selling side, because that's been the big drag on home values for home sellers, and really just the competitiveness towards home sellers as well. So if builders are able to have success in 2024 without dropping their price or dropping interest rate incentives, that's going to be a huge win for home sellers, because that's likely going to put a floor under home prices and likely increase those. But again, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Number 4 prediction, let's talk about rent and where we expect rent to go to. So obviously, you know, our opinion is you should own a home versus renting, and we'll talk through some of the math and the reasons behind that here in just a minute. But first, let's look at some of the stats and what people think rent's going to do in 2024. So 67% of the people surveyed think rent is going to increase in 2024, which makes sense as we've had, you know, high inflation, and we also have low supply in the marketplace. We have low affordability in terms of housing, and so that is pushing more people towards renting. The challenge is consumers expect rent prices to go up 5.6%, which is above inflation, and that is a huge challenge for those first-time home buyers that are looking to save up their down payments to get into their first home. So huge challenge to look at. One thing that helped drive some potential legislation was really a fake news article that came out, which said that Wall Street purchased 44% of the homes in the marketplace, which was simply not true. However, this is a big stat. Investors did buy 30% of the homes in the marketplace, which is up from 20% in 2000. So a 10% jump in terms of the overall number of homes sold being bought by investors is huge, because it's not a 10% increase, it's a 10% of the overall market. Huge percentage of buyers in the marketplace being investors right now. And I think the biggest challenge I see with this is we're really losing a lot of the potential American dream as we have all these rent-to-own communities popping up, and we have all these apartment complexes popping up all over Huntsville. It's kind of hashtag renter nation, where we have people that could buy that are getting comfortable with renting as their rent continues to go up each and every month. And the challenge with that, if you're a renter, is you're losing the overall game, because most wealth in this country is built through owning a home. Net worth of owners versus renters is 40 times in favor of homeowners versus it is for renters. When the data came out just a few years ago, it was like $6,500 for renters versus $255,000 for owners. That number has skyrocketed with all the inflation we've seen here recently. I think average net worth of homeowners is now like over $380,000. So huge net worth for homeowners. And the reason that they're able to do that is because, number one, they keep their payments fixed. When you buy a home and you lock in a 30-year mortgage, your mortgage payment stays fixed, versus renters, they're expecting their rent to go up 5.6% this year, maybe another 5.6% next year. And you do the math, in 12 years, your rent has basically doubled. And so that is one way that homeowners are edging the advantage in terms of net worth. The other way that they're doing that is a portion of your payment goes towards your principal. So it's like a forced savings account when you buy versus rent. And then also you get these tax deductions. And so the government is borrowing more money than they're actually bringing in. So they incentivize people to take out mortgages. And the way that they do that is they allow you to write off certain things like your interest and taxes on your tax statement, so that you actually benefit from borrowing versus renting. The other big advantage is appreciation. On purchasing a home, you're actually able to capture the entire appreciation of the home versus just the down payment that you put in. So basically, if you put down a 5% down payment and the home goes up 5%, you actually doubled your money. You didn't just increase your net worth, 5%. So lots of advantages on buying versus renting, but my overall projection is really pretty much in line with what your all's expectations are. Your expectation was 5.6%. I do think we'll see a 5% increase in terms of rents in 2024, not only nationally, but also here in the Huntsville, Alabama real estate market. So for our last prediction, our last but not least, is in terms of home values for the Huntsville, Alabama real estate market, and really even nationally as well. I think if we see rates go down, obviously that's what we're predicting, we're going to see prices go up. If you see rates kind of come back up to that 8% level and stay steady at that point, I do think we'll see prices drop. At 8% interest rate, I think you see prices drop about 5%. If you see basically interest rates stay kind of where we're at, is kind of around that 7% range, I think that is creates a value range of about really equal. I don't think we'll see values go up or down at 7%. But if you see what we're predicting, which is kind of high fives on the government side, mid sixes on the conventional side, I think you'll see a 5% increase in terms of home values in 2024. Now, there is a potential that interest rates drop even below what we're predicting. And if that's the case, I think you'll see rapid price increases once again. I think you'll see double digit, probably 10% or even more price appreciation in the Huntsville market if you were to see that. Again, I don't think we'll see rates drop that low. So I am predicting 5% price appreciation for homes in Huntsville, Alabama in 2024. And for your bonus prediction, the Huntsville, Alabama, and really the overall Alabama real estate rankings for 2023 come out in the June timeframe. So we've been fortunate enough, thank you to all of our past clients that are watching right now, to become the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the past 4 years. My bold prediction is that we repeat that again in 2024 to become the #1 real estate team in Alabama for 5 years in a row. So if you're looking to buy or sell, trust the experts, trust the #1 real estate team in Alabama to help you buy and sell in 2024.